documents, and we're hoping to do training with teachers one-on-one, as well as create some resources from what has already been digitized to the schools so that they can use them in the classroom. The other kind of highlights, we continue to do collections donations. This is either through oral history donations, artifacts, digital donations. You can send us a digital copy of your item. I did an outreach event at Legana Civic Association over the summer, and an individual approached me afterwards and said, hey, I have aerial images that were taken from my plane. Would the Historical Society have any interest in those? So we organized that, and he did a digital donation of modern aerial images of the lake itself and of the dam, so that we can have other documents, other types of materials in the collection besides just family papers that not everyone collects, but there are photos, and pretty much most people have photos. So we're always willing to kind of talk to you about that. So if you have anything and are interested, you can find one of us after. We continue to do our research. Research program is a huge staple. So far this year, we've had 35 research requests. I counted them before, but I think we have 14 or 15 different states that research requests have come in from, and one foreign country. We had research requests come in from Portugal earlier this year about family property that was here in Louisa back in the 1700s. So these are ongoing things that are volunteers are working on. As far as volunteers go, we cannot be thankful enough for all of you in this room who have volunteered in some form or another. We are eternally grateful. I don't think you quite understand how much work you do, and that goes into helping the society be able to pull off any of these programs. These 55 programs and 19 outreach events, we couldn't do any of them without the help of our volunteers. Since January, our volunteers have put in over 1,400 hours, which if you were to calculate that out to the kind of volunteer average rate, that's an entire person's salary for a year. So without those people, we wouldn't be able to do our work. Lois over there, coming to each of our free family days, as well as all of the other programs that we have in the Heritage Farm, as the school mistress. It's what makes people come back here, being able to interact with our volunteers who are really passionate about what they're doing. And that comes across. The last kind of tidbit to talk about, we continue to obviously need the support of grants and outside funding. In addition to volunteer hours, which help us do this work, we can't do the work that we're doing without outside grants as well as society donations. This year, since January, we've brought in $27,500 in grant funding. This is funding from various organizations, including Virginia Humanities, Virginia Museum of History and Culture, where we were awarded one of the 12 inaugural Commonwealth grants through the new Museum Fund, through the William Cook Foundation, who is local and gives money to local organizations to do work, Rappahannock Electric Cooperative, and the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation are some of the big ones. But these monies will go towards funding our oral history projects, our African American history projects, and there will be more grant funding coming for the archive digitization program in the coming year. Right now we're fortunate that all of the money we've collected as part of the digitization campaign 2 years ago is still supporting that work. So these granting agencies are really helpful because we can't do this work, and we can't help with salaries for grant staff programs to be able to host Juneteenth. Grant funding from Rappahannock Electric Cooperative supported that program. So we're always reliant on those and always looking for new opportunities. I know, Deb, you had mentioned, you just asked that question about grant funding, and it's something that we're looking at as this coming year. the BIPOC grant funding that Jenny Keller talked about is something that Ethan and I had attended one of the early virtual conversations about. It's been delayed because they weren't quite sure how that funding, the stipulations on who could qualify, but they're hoping that that's going to be released at the beginning of January, so we should have more information. And one of the things that my husband Kyle is always talking to me about, he sends me basically every article about Rosenwald schools in the greater Virginia area and says, hey, I know there are more here in Louisa County, so maybe this would qualify. So we're thinking about it, and that will probably be for next year's funding as a funding source.
Hope we could keep it on that side.
Okay, yep. I'm going to turn it over to Ethan real quick, and then I'll be back.
I have just a couple points to make on that, to expand on that 1,400-hour number for volunteers. As most of you will know, I coordinate most of the volunteer activities around here. I'm the one from whom you receive all those emails if you're a volunteer. And I say that with the expectation that a lot of you are glad to be on the receiving end. We, in September particularly, had a number of volunteer gatherings, outings, tours. I call them enrichment experiences, where we went to sites like Twin Oaks, Providence Presbyterian Church, took some tours, enjoyed immersing ourselves in the history of Louisa County. We had a lot of positive response to that. I absolutely would intend on putting together more of those enrichment experiences. And for those of you, and I know there are anywhere from 25 to 30 active volunteers, and there are more than 30 people to whom I usually send out those emails. If there are individuals in the room who are not on the volunteer email list, these usually go out once a month, updates for me about upcoming events, how you can help, and how you can benefit by these special opportunities and tours we put together. Let me know. Come up to me in the gathering afterward here, and or if you're interested in further volunteer opportunities at the Historical Society, I am happy to talk about those with you. We have coming up at a date to be named later, a recognition ceremony of sorts, at which we will dedicate our bricks for the front stoop of the Historical Society. We have some new lifetime members, thank you, Deb, and a couple of bricks, I believe, that are being placed in the ground in honor of individuals, Melvin Burris included. I also want to honor and let you all know that we will be doing our first public presentation of student memberships at that same event, or at least that's our intention. We have this semester, for those of us who are on the academic schedule, 2 active students who are interns for the Society. They do this without pay and for their own enrichment and academic and work experience, and they do it to work once a week or twice a week in the case of the last few months at the Historical Society, adding a lot to what we're able to produce in terms of programs and our collections outreach. We have Robert, I'd like to recognize here. If you can hold your hand up, Robert. Is our inaugural student membership. We announced these in the last newsletter in July, and these are presented to students who volunteer 10 or more hours of their time for the Historical Society. If you are still a student, you get a free membership. All of you in this room know what membership entails. Free things, benefits, and we really want to get young people involved, which means that people like Alex here will be recognized with that free membership. So thank you, Alex. Or Robert, I'm sorry. People with multiple names, it's very confusing. Just a couple details and pictures of our public programming during the last year. I don't have much to say. You've heard lots of my thoughts in the regular membership emails as to what I thought was a success, what we have been really grateful to put on, particularly Juneteenth, I will highlight on the left. I tried to highlight our sort of first-time events in this slide. Juneteenth, we had done an open house before in 2019. Combining with Louisa United, however, enabled us to put on a much more extensive all-day event that really got the message out as to how we intend and strive to do our best to illuminate the diverse history of Louisa County and do better than the society has sometimes reflected African American history in the past, or neglected to, and we hope to overcome that. In the middle there, we have some pictures of our recent Ghosts of Louisa's Past downtown walking tour. We took a total between two tours of 70 people around the downtown courthouse lawn, experiencing the stories of people who have lived and died in Louisa County. And this is in addition to the 7 downtown walking tours, our downtown exploration, our sort of standard, more architectural history tour, which I enjoyed just as much, that we completed throughout the last 6 months or so. So that's something that had just started up in 2019 before COVID, thanks to Douglas Moore, our longtime docent tour guide who does our work pro bono on top of his docent work at Highland over in Charlottesville, and we've had a lot of success with that recently. I encourage everyone who has not, even if you're a lifelong Louisan and are very comfortable reciting facts and your life experiences around downtown Louisa, to try out one of these tours. It helps us learn about how individuals have experienced those buildings, but it's an opportunity to step foot in some places where you might